You know, the president says he's for the middle class and he's for more jobs, but then he turns around and vetoes the Keystone Pipeline. You have to wonder, what's he thinking? We got China and Russia building pipelines of their own, and here we can't even build the Keystone Pipeline. It's really kind of embarrassing. All I'm going to say is the fight's not over.
Strong words from House Speaker John Boehner following the presidential veto of the Keystone XL pipeline. With Miranda Khan, J.D. Hayworth welcoming you back to America's Forum.
Yes, yesterday the president issued a swift veto of the bill, claiming that the bill does not help national interests. Here's a look at his message. In the message to the Senate, he wrote in part, "This act of Congress conflicts with established executive branch procedures. It cuts short thorough consideration of issues that could bear on our national interests, including our security, safety, and environment."
Joining us with more on this story, Congressman Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma, who is Skyping in from Capitol Hill. He's a member of the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. And from Newsmax, New York, we're rejoined by the former Lieutenant Governor of the Empire State, Betsy McCoy. Markwayne, it's great to have you here on America's Forum.
Thanks for having me.
Is this the end of the line for Keystone, or Markwayne, do you think you guys will try to override this presidential veto?
Well, I don't think we have the votes to be able to override the veto, but it's not, the fight's not over. I mean, look, this is in the best interest of this country. It brings in national security. It brings in jobs. You know, this president has been talking about shovel-ready jobs since he was elected. This has been a shovel-ready job since he's been elected. And instead, he's wanting to listen to individuals that's willing to, pad his political war chest and not put the interests of the American people forward. I think he's run out of excuses.
Congressman, isn't this going to drive a wedge between the big labor Democrats and the other constituents in the Democratic Party, like the environmentalists?
Well, I don't know. It might. That's really not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is the national security of the country and putting real good paying jobs out there for those individuals that make a living doing construction work. The argument that the president says this doesn't create jobs, his own administration is saying it creates jobs. You know, the southern leg went completely through my district, and I understand the impact that it's had. And the environmentalists, in my opinion, represent a very small group. The labor, well, they represent a lot of hardworking individuals that represent the middle class that this president, once again, is constantly talking about he's trying to help. But right here, he's not trying to help them.
Congressman, just to give our viewers an idea, how much money has been invested so far into this project? Because this has been ongoing for years.
I don't know the total investment because you're getting it from a different group of people. I've heard reports that there has been well over $700 million that's already been invested in just trying to do the studies, getting the legwork done as far as the route. But I don't really have those hard numbers. I know the impact it's going to have is going to be over $2 billion once the project is off the ground. But, you know, the president has been calling from day one that, that Congress should act. And now Congress has acted, and all the president has done is issued veto threats. Since he's been in office, or since we've been back in session in the 114th Congress, he's already issued 10 veto threats. The president has showed himself to be a do-nothing president right now, and I don't understand why this project isn't being approved. This is good for America.
Well, Congressman, also the president suggested in his statement that somehow Congress is shortcutting that's the term he used, shortcutting the look at the environmental impact, the other impacts of the pipeline. How can it be shortcutting? Talk a bit about how long they've looked at this.
It's been 6 years. I mean, how are you shortcutting? How long do you need to look at the impact it's going to have? Look, here's the choice. We have a choice to either bring this oil down by rail or by truck, or we're going to put it in a pipeline. When you start looking at pipeline safety, there is no comparison at the chances for some type of disaster to happen. You know, we talked to the Canadian Parliament that came into my office, and we had a conversation. I said, you know, what's your options? Are you really going to turn the line and head west and start shipping it out to China. And he says the option right now is really, are we going to put it in the ground and ship it to Houston, or are we going to put it on rail? Because it's coming one way or the next.
Congressman Markwayne Mullin, we'll have to leave it right there. We want you to come back. There are other issues to discuss. Betsy will be here, and I hope you're watching at home will stay here too as we continue.
I'm most worried about, at a personal level, having a 36-inch toxic pipeline 1.5 miles from my family and running over our water source and running through a field that we need to be very fertile to raise our crops.
I think some people that are against this pipeline, I don't care if they're putting a flagpole in their yard, they'd be against it just to be against something.
Conflicting viewpoints from both sides of the debate concerning the possible construction of the Keystone XL pipeline. As we continue on America's Forum, let's continue with Congressman Markwayne Mullin, Republican of Oklahoma, Skyping in from Capitol Hill. Markwayne's a member of the House Committee on Energy and Commerce, and remaining with us from Newsmax New York, former Lieutenant Governor of the Empire State, Betsy McCoy. So Markwayne, we heard a couple of sound bites there from NBC News, but the numbers, at least in terms of polling, seem to be with those who say we got to build the pipeline. Is there any way to attract enough Democrat votes to override the veto, or does the president, the White House, is it just too strong and the partisan pull too much on your Democratic counterparts there in the House?
Well, I mean, the partisan pull is pretty tough. The president has a good opportunity to use his position to unite this country, but instead he's using it to divide us. There's really no reason, there's no excuse left of why this permit hasn't already been approved. But you know, what you hear is sound bites from individuals that really, they sometimes lack understanding. And people have a tendency, it's just natural. People have a tendency to fear things that they don't understand. If they went and they looked at what this pipeline has as far as safety, as far as technology that's available, you'll be amazed at the technology and the improvement it has had. I mean, I've laid miles and miles of pipeline. And the standard that this one is held up at is honestly, to an individual that's been in the industry my whole life, it is astounding.
Well, Markwayne, let's move to a metaphorical pipeline, and that is our leaking southern border. We've got to get to this question of border security and Homeland Security. During my days in the House, we would always kind of grit our teeth and roll our eyes and say, there goes the Senate caving in. Is that what we've had now with Leader McConnell splitting off a, quote, clean funding bill for Homeland Security and holding back on the immigration bill? Does it put the House back on the spot? What are you prepared to do?
Well, ironically enough, we just now got out of a conference on this. And there's been a lot of talk about what the Senate might do, but the truth is we got to figure out what they're going to do. The House, we've acted. We passed our bill. We sent it to the Senate, and now we're just got to wait on the Senate to act. Making speculation of what they might do and what they can get done is really difficult for us, and so I'm prepared to probably have to stay here for a little bit longer than maybe we were anticipating until we get this done. But I do feel like we won't go home until we get it done.
The president has been spinning this as putting America's national security at risk. Could you clarify what will actually happen if the funds aren't available?
Markwayne, about 45 seconds to answer this, sir.
Sure. 86% of DHS employees are considered individuals that have to go to work. In other words, they're considered essential. So they're still going to show up. Putting our national security at risk is continuing and allowing our borders to be wide open. That's putting our national security at risk. As far as doing what's right, as far as actually securing our borders, allowing immigration not to just be an open-ended process where they can go in and stay in the country as long as they want to, not enforcing our laws when we're a nation of laws, that's a national security risk. Debating this, it becomes an issue that should be partisan or bipartisan, not partisan.
Fair enough. Congressman Markwayne Mullin, we do appreciate your perspective as you Skype in from Capitol Hill, and we thank you for your time. When we come back, Betsy and I will be joined by Rachel Alexander.